People keep asking me where my favourite place to wild camp has been, but I've done 25 nights of camping since I started last September, and it's completely impossible to pick one because a lot of them have been memorable or fun or good or awful for very different reasons. So here are some of my more memorable ones, where they are and why I liked them or didn't like them. I'm going to start with the one I enjoyed the least. So start with the negative, which was by Loch Ness side in October 2023. And the only reason I really didn't enjoy it is because it was much colder than I expected. It was forecast to be 6 degrees, and my sleeping bag had a comfort zone of, I think, 6 to 10 degrees. In actual fact, somebody said to me that that was the temperature sort of in a town down by the loch side that night. Went down to 0 degrees. I was absolutely freezing and miserable all night. The next one is the most spectacular location for me, which was definitely just south of Elgol. So I parked at Elgol, which is in the southwest corner of the Isle of Skye, and I walked about a couple of miles down and I camped out on a cliff edge. And it was great because there was no wind at all last night. I could not have camped there if there was any wind at all. It would have been terrifying and possibly dangerous because I was just meters away from a massive drop. But because it was a still night and a clear night, it was just beautiful. I loved it. The most fun I've ever had, and the most sort of fun in a relaxing kind of way, the beach to the east of Nairn in front of Culbin Forest. I cooked a really nice meal on my fire, and it was so much fun just sitting there enjoying the beach. I didn't see another soul the whole time I was there. It was so peaceful just being on the beach in the evening with a fire. And the most magical experience was a night in December when I walked 6 miles in the dark on the Moray Coastal Trail. I saw aurora for one thing, and it was a completely clear, still night, although very cold. It went down to -3. That's the coldest I've camped. But because it was all frosty, and it was the biggest, brightest moon I've ever seen. I practically didn't need my head torch when I was walking. There was this huge golden moon shining on the sea, and all the grass was just sparkling with frost in the moonlight, and it was just felt like I was in another magical world. It was just great. Or the most scared I've ever been. I drove up to the northwest of Scotland and I walked 4 miles to a place called Slagan Bay. So it was completely remote, 4 miles from the nearest road, and that was just a tiny single track road. It was a beautiful beach and there was a gorgeous sunset, but you had to kind of climb down onto the beach. But it wasn't until kind of late on when I got into my tent that I realised there was no phone signal on the beach. That was the first time I'd ever been faced with a night. It was completely cut off, with no phone signal, and I wasn't completely used to camping on my own then yet, so I did feel quite nervous and uncomfortable about that. Also scary, but more kind of weird, was my night in the bone caves at Inchinadamh. I just got there 9 o'clock at night. I was very scared when I first arrived because the cave was dark. There's lots of dripping water. There's lots of dark crevices at the back of the cave. And it was so strange being in the cave. There was no phone signal in the cave or anywhere near it, but I knew that before I went, so I was at least prepared for it. And once I kind of got myself all unpacked and got into my sleeping bag, it was sort of cozy, and by that stage I felt fairly safe that nobody had sort of followed me up there, because that had been my worry at the start of the night. It was kind of fun waking up there and making my breakfast in the cave. The most special experience I've had camping, sorry, there's tons of these, there's so many of them have been good, but was just the other weekend when I was at Castle Turam. A little bit because the castle was so beautiful and the whole location was beautiful, but largely because just so amazing that at 10:30 at night to open the flap of my door and there's 3 deer just grazing right outside my tent, and then down on the beach there's some more deer just running about, and they didn't even seem to be that scared of me. And so that was just amazing to just sit in my tent and look out and see them there. And if I had to pick an overall best experience, I'm going to say it was my trip to the Isle of Egg. It was really special to be getting a ferry, and the fact that it was an island, and also an island that's sort of small enough that you can walk the length of the island, and the things that there were to visit. The walk and then visiting the Singing Sands was a beautiful walk and a beautiful beach, and kind of fun that the sand makes this squeaking noise. There was two very scary, dramatic caves, and I love visiting caves, so that was amazing. And that was one of the main reasons I wanted to go to Egg. I met so many nice people. I loved the fact that I put my tent up in the morning once I got off the ferry, and I just left all my stuff in my tent and went for a long walk. And then I went to the caves, and then I went out for dinner, and I was away for like 8 or 9 hours, and all my stuff was just left in the tent. There was other wild campers around me, and they were really friendly, and the sort of sense of safety from being on an island. You think, well, nobody can get onto the island or off the island unless they've got a boat, so that was kind of nice.